That's right, it's Easter, the time of year when I compare myself to Jesus Christ. That's just a thing I do now, and people seem to be okay with it. I'm going to keep doing it. And if you think that this is a bad look, imagine how weird it would be if I started selling Bibles. Well, I'm selling Bibles. Look at this beautiful Bible, made from 100% Bible.
I mean, you just have to laugh to keep from crying. That was James Austin Johnson on Saturday Night Live last night, offering his take on Donald Trump's new business venture, selling Bibles. Joining me now, Molly Jong Fast, special correspondent at Vanity Fair and host of the Fast Politics podcast. Matt Dowd, author of Revelations on the River, Healing a Nation, Healing Ourselves. And Eugene Daniels, political White House correspondent and playbook co-author. All three are MSNBC political analysts. Okay, so we saw that, the sending up of Trump hawking his own Bibles. Let's hear what Senator Raphael Warnock had to say about Trump-endorsed Bibles.
The Bible does not need Donald Trump's endorsement. Donald Trump is doing what he's always done. And this time it's a risky bet. Because the folks who buy those Bibles might actually open them up, where it says things like, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not bear false witness, where it warns about wolves dressed up in sheep's clothing. I think he ought to be careful. This is risky business for somebody like Donald Trump.
Yeah, I would love to get Molly and Matt, y'all's reaction to this craziness. Molly, you go first.
I mean, you know, Raphael Warnock is the preacher at Martin Luther King's church, right? The guy really does actually know what he's talking about. So I would assume it's pretty offensive to him. You know, I'm, you know, not particularly religious, and I'm Jewish. So I can only imagine how offensive it is to people who are actually religious Catholics and Christians. But, you know, the Republicans seem not so interested in that. I mean, they spent the whole weekend attacking Biden because Trans Visibility Day was on the same day as Easter, you know, because it's always on March 31st. So I do think there was quite, you know, there seems to be no alliance, you know, there seems to be no it just seems to be that the far right doesn't care that Biden is this religious Catholic and that Trump has all these marriages. And it just seems like they just don't care. It's a false equivalency.
Yeah. And Matt would love your view. Also love the mustache, but your view of all this.
It's got a bit more gray than the last time I grew one. Well, happy Easter to y'all, everyone. I am a Christian, grew up Catholic, went to church this morning, heard a great message from the minister about love conquers hate and light over darkness and rising when we fall. It is offensive. It's incredibly offensive. When Donald Trump speaks and holds the Bible up, it reminds me of an odd combination of Elmer Gantry and Lonesome Rhodes from the movie A Face in the Crowd. And I recommend anybody that hasn't seen that movie from the 50s. It's a great sort of perspective on exactly what we're faced today. I mean, every single thing Donald Trump do offends the message of the Gospels, in my view. You know, Jesus knocked over the tables in the temples where the money changers were. Now Donald Trump's hawking a Bible in this. Donald Trump speaks and is the most divisive, cruel person in the history of the presidency. And obviously, it's an exact opposite of what Jesus' message was in this. But to me, it speaks to the rot that exists among the Christian nationalists in this country who believe in a prosperity gospel that you're supposed to get rich, even though Jesus' message was against greed and was actually aimed at rich people in the course of this. But it's incredibly, incredibly revealing that the evangelicals in this country and Christian nationalists totally support this guy and actually support his message in trying to hawk things, because that's what they're doing in their daily lives and in many of their churches. It's such a revelatory, to use a religious term, a revelatory thing that Donald Trump does this and then is backed by certain people of the faith. It just exposes the rot that exists in faith communities in America.
Eugene, I'm going to switch gears coming to you and bring it back to the secular world and the political world, because stuff's happening in that building over there on the House side, and there's a lot of conversation. Speaker Mike Johnson is in trouble with the House Freedom Caucus and Marjorie Taylor Greene and her motion to vacate, and now the spotlight is on Democrats. Yeah. Democrats, what y'all going to do when the time comes and you got to vote or not vote for Mike Johnson? Two Democratic members of the House were on separate shows. Congressman Khanna of California was on Fox News Sunday. Congressman Jerry Connolly of Virginia was on with Alex Witt on MSNBC. Listen to Khanna and then Connolly and what they have to say about what they would do if they were faced with having to vote to save Mike Johnson.
I would consider it under two conditions. One, we get the aid into Ukraine, so we stand up to Putin. And two, let's get the $600 million to rebuild the bridge in Baltimore.
To reward him because he finally brings up a bill that's going to pass with 300 votes, well, that's his job. That's not doing us a favor that has to be rewarded. So I part ways with those who say we owe him something. We don't. He owes us something.
And so the thing here that they have in common is that Ro Khanna is saying, give me funding for Baltimore and give me funding for Ukraine. And Congressman Connolly is saying, you should be giving us Ukraine as a matter of course. So what's going to happen? What's the reporting?
Yeah, there are a lot of people in both of those camps, right? We want to get things from you in order to give you and save you, Mike Johnson, from being the next Kevin McCarthy, but also do your job. We don't care. The only opinion that's going to really matter at the end of the day is Hakeem Jeffries, right? He leads this caucus he's strong with how he leads it. He learned from Nancy Pelosi and kind of knowing what his team needs to be doing, and also giving them permission to go out and say, I'm not going to do this, while also whipping the votes to get what they want. And they have kind of already signaled that they're okay with saving him because of the things, because the people that would come next, in their view, are going to be much worse than Mike Johnson. That's something that Democrats in leadership have said over and over again, right? He was much more further right than Kevin McCarthy, and the person after that is going to probably be much more further right than him. And so they are having those conversations. It's also not completely clear if Marjorie Taylor Greene's actually going to pull the trigger on her motion to vacate, right? Not the way that she did it, kind of just like sitting there as an open threat. But Mike Johnson is in actual trouble because they have proven over and over again they don't care about their leadership in the conference. They want them to do what they want their leadership to do, what the House Freedom Caucus wants. They don't care about the larger aspect, and more importantly, some of them don't even really care about governing when you talk about.
Well, right. I mean, a lot of those folks, whether in the House Freedom Caucus or just the general Republican conference, they were sent to Washington to blow things up,
to gum up the works.
Yeah, gum up the works. Okay, you were kinder. Gumming up the works is much kinder than my little analogy.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.